Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome once again to a Greater Lawrence Chamber of Commerce Chamber Chat. My name is Brad Kloffenstein, President of the Greater Lawrence Chamber. We are excited this week. Lawrence, or at least a good part of Lawrence, has a brand new state representative, and he is gracious enough to join us from his new little cubicle at the State House. Chris Jeter, he is a veteran, a father. There was a couple other things I had in your intro, and he's also the new state rep for the northeast corner, probably northeast 1/6 of Lawrence Township, a little bit around Geist Reservoir, and a whole big swath of Western Hancock County. So Representative Jeter, welcome to Lawrence and the Chamber. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Brad. Good to be with you. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're quite welcome. So first, let's start off. For people who have no idea who you are, why don't you give us a little thumbnail of who is Chris Jeter and how did you get here?
Sure, happy to do so. A lot of people wouldn't know who I am because I was told by anybody that matters that I didn't have any chance to win this race. So I'm making my way around, introducing myself to folks. Was born and raised in Fishers. As you mentioned, I'm an Iraq war veteran, 7 years active duty in the Navy. I graduated from Hamilton Southeastern High School back in '97, so I'm just in my early 40s, 42. I do have a wife and 3 kids. They range from 5 to 5 months, and I own my own law firm with a couple partners in downtown Fishers. We do a lot of work in Hancock County, Marion, and I'm really excited when the Speaker Bosman announced he was retiring after 30 years from this seat. Felt like a great way to serve for me. Having been out of the Navy for a while, I had that service bug again. And so I, despite people telling me I didn't have a shot, I went ahead and threw my hat in the ring, worked really hard. And, I got to give the credit to the voters, 50% of which are in Lawrence, that, I was able to come away with it. And I think our message was pretty clear. It was a message about, fresh blood, getting back to conservative ideas, strong conservative leadership during a time like this. And so, that resonated. So I'm happy to be here.
Outstanding. So what was I going to ask you? Now I can't remember. Oh, your law partner, Mario, why is he not joining us today? I thought for sure he'd be a natural.
Well, he's my perfect segue to every conversation. Everybody knows Mario. But he is back man in the shop at the law firm, which he's going to have to do here for the next few months. But I'll make sure to let him know that you guys are looking for him. Okay,
that's good to know. So is he still going to pay you? That's the big thing. Do you still get a paycheck from the law firm over the next 4 months?
He says that's to be determined. It depends on how well I vote and how well I behave. So we'll see.
So obviously, you know politics. I mean, all of us have been in and around politics for a while, but this is the first time you actually get to vote. What is it that you're looking to accomplish in your first session? Or is this going to be more of a kind of go along and learn the ropes, or are there some things that you really want to push for? Or are you just going to go out there and fight for business?
Yeah, great question, Brad. I mean, they just briefed us at our new, as you mentioned, I'm here at my brand new spacious cubicle here at the State House for new legislator orientation was today. And they informed us today that about 14% of bills that are filed actually get passed. And so that's, we expect that percentage to be even smaller this year. As you know, there are a lot of very, very pressing issues facing the General Assembly this year. The COVID pandemic has resulted in, I think, a lot of things that are going to come up that that the caucus didn't anticipate. Also, a lot of you may know we're in a redistricting year, which I am just kind of figuring out how big of a deal it is. We're going to redraw the maps. We've got a significant, I think, like $1 billion budget shortfall. So we're going to be looking to, I think, make some tough decisions on the budget. So to answer your question, I think there's a lot there's sessions where we do things, and I think there's sessions where events do us, and I think the events are going to be driving our agenda a little bit. We also are going to have a law enforcement bill that deals with some of the law enforcement issues that are going on in the country today. And so what I'm going to try to do in this first session is be realistic about what I can get done. I'm going to try to have an impact where I can. There's a lot of discussion about COVID immunity for businesses. The law enforcement bill is going to deal with body cams, take a look at qualified immunity, stuff like that. I really intend to have a big voice on those. I have strong opinions on the importance of law enforcement, on the importance of allowing our small businesses to help us grow out of this pandemic. And so I'm going to be trying to inject kind of a new perspective, a guy who owns a small business, a guy whose family was in law enforcement, military. And so, yeah, I'm going to try to have as big of an impact as I can on those issues.
Cool. So shame on me. I didn't do proper show prep. What committees did you get assigned to?
Great question. So we just got word today, those are coming out next week. So I don't know. I can tell you that as of one of only 3 lawyers in the caucus, I do strongly anticipate that I will be on the committee and the Criminal Code and Courts Committee. But beyond that, I'm not really sure. We should know probably middle of next week is what we're being told.
Okay. If I were you, I'd get on the somehow the Redistricting Committee. Make sure they don't draw you out.
Yeah.
So how long have you been an attorney? Have you been in other businesses besides law? Just trying to get to know you a little bit better. Yeah,
absolutely. So let's see, I'm trying to, gosh, it's been a long time now. I've been an attorney now for 16 years, going on my 16th year. Like I said, I was on active duty in the Navy as a Navy JAG for 7 of those years. I worked at a big law firm downtown Barnes and Thornburg for about 3 years, which is sort of where I got my intro into politics. That firm's pretty politically active. And then I've owned my own firm for the last going on 6 years. And so I've really enjoyed doing that. I mostly represent small businesses. I do some estate planning and probate and a little bit of civil litigation, but mostly my focus is on advising small and medium-sized businesses, anywhere from 10 to 200 employees all over the central Indiana. I also do own 2 fitness studios, 2 F45 group circuit training fitness studios. One is on 96th Street, one's down in Greenwood. I'm a kind of a silent partner in those with a business partner of mine. And so, yeah, so I'm a small business owner 2 times over. And so I feel very passionate about those issues. But like I said, local kid, HSE high school. And, it's kind of surreal for me to be here now, and not just because I grew up here, but also because, a lot of folks told me that I just wouldn't be able to win this seat. So it's pretty cool to walk into this building and sit at this tiny little cubicle. And I'm excited about trying to make a difference for Republican and for conservative causes.
Nice. Do you know how to negotiate the tunnels and get all the way over into Circle Center Mall?
I got lost this morning, but I'm working on it.
They don't give you like a buddy system or something where they pair you with somebody else who's been there a while?
They do, but you don't realize how big how this building is perfectly symmetrical. You think you're facing north, you're really facing south, and you're going out the wrong door. You get turned around, and it's funny. People joke, but it really is about learning where the bathrooms are. That really is kind of the stage I'm in. I had to go in one of these meetings and couldn't find it, so it's a learning curve for sure.
That's cool. So I ask all of our guests this: why do you love Lawrence?
Why do I love Lawrence?
Why do you love Lawrence? The city of Lawrence has that hashtag, and
yeah.
I ask everyone that.
Sure, that's a great question. I can tell you in the primary, when I was running in the primary, I made a concerted effort to do as much damage in Lawrence as I could, and I knocked on the door of every hard and soft Republican in every precinct in Lawrence in the primary. Close to 5,000 doors, and man, incredible people in Lawrence, incredible conservatives, incredible lifelong Republicans that have lived there for many, many decades. And I got to meet a lot of them. Very, very passionate about education issues, a lot of passion about social, important social issues, constitutional rights. And so I really enjoyed the people of Lawrence was my favorite part. I met some unbelievable people there. I also am a big fan of the Lawrence mayor. I think Mayor Collier is really a great asset of Lawrence. He's doing a great job bringing kind of a new identity to that city. And there's a lot of great restaurants and places to go around Lawrence. And so I'm a big fan, and I look forward to spending a lot more time there doing events like this, and hopefully we can get together in person someday.
Yeah, that'd be good. So, from a chamber standpoint, we've probably been on the front cutting edge of getting back to doing in-person events. We're doing now a cruise in on Wednesday nights, weather permitting, in the summertime, and there's a lot of opportunities to come out and do things. So yeah, hopefully if you get an opportunity, we'll see you at some of those events. I know Lawrence had their Christmas parade. So
Yep. The Lawrence Christmas is a really cool event.
Yeah, it was very cool. So we will open it up now. Are there questions for Representative Jeter while he's here? We have a good audience. hold up your hand. Don't be shy. Ross Snyder. Go right ahead, Ross.
Hi, Chris. Can you talk about how the pandemic is going to change the way you guys do business and where you meet as far as the House members? And will the limit on the number of bills that can be introduced, has that been lowered because of this?
Great question, Ross. Yes, there's going to be a lot of changes in the way we do business, and it's going to be a goat rope as best I can tell. We are going to meet in the government center, just to the west of the State House in one of the big ballrooms there. We're going to have a lot of our committee rooms there too. There's going to be a lot of social distancing going on. Staff members and media are not going to be allowed in the committee rooms, which is unusual. There's definitely been a reduction on the number of bills. I think it's going to be reduced to 5 each. It's usually 10. And there's going to be there's pretty much a limit on everything. There's a limit on number of co-sponsors, the number of people that can come add on to the bill. It's going to be really interesting. And they've apologized to us freshmen many times, saying this is not normally what it's like. You guys are not going to get a great experience from the beginning. But I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot of things different. I think it's going to be difficult. I just don't think we're going to be as efficient. But it is what it is.
Other questions from the gallery? We'll go with Eric first.
Hey, Chris, good to see you. I was wondering what you think the legislation will be able to be passed to help small businesses during this next session. I mean, you personally are owning a small business. I'm a small business owner myself. What can get done to help these small businesses in this tough time?
Yeah, that's a great question, Eric. Good to see you, by the way. I think one of the primary agenda bills that leadership, I think, is going to be submitting early on in session is going to be a COVID business liability bill, which is going to create some liability protections, some immunity for small businesses related to the COVID pandemic, meaning that if you have made reasonable efforts to comply with public health directives, then essentially you're immune from suit from any employees or customers who claim that they got COVID from businesses. So I think that's going to be the main agenda bill that you're going to see. I think there'll be other aspects to it. I think one of the main things that we can do is start to kind of get away from some of the restrictions and some of the draconian shutdowns and obligations that we've put on businesses. I really believe that coming out of this pandemic, it's just we need to empower our small businesses to get back to work and kind of get out of the way and let them drive the recovery. As a small business owner myself, I can tell you that the studios that I own, we're only limited in how the state will allow us to have in the facility. So the minute we can get reopened and start really generating more business, hiring more people, paying more taxes, and doing all those things, I think we'll be better off. So I think the liability, the immunity is a big part of it. Honestly, I think the other part of it is a lot of business owners will tell you, you don't need to necessarily do anything major for us, just get out. And that's going to be, I think, what you're going to see a push for up here come January.
Thank you for that. Russ Dodge, you said you had a question.
Yeah, I got two questions. First off is dealing with the redrawing of the maps for the legislature. There's a coalition that's been formed that supposedly is bipartisan. Anybody who knows anything about this knows that when the
Thank you.
Yeah, anybody that knows anything about it knows that when the Democrats controlled the legislature, they drew the maps their way, and Republicans do the same. I'm not picking up that there's any appetite to do anything more than give lip service to this group. Is that accurate?
I am not that wise on redistricting, Russ. I am still looking myself on how that whole process works, and obviously we all have a vested interest in it from an elected official point of view. And I have not heard or seen anything, and I'm not even really clear on how exactly that all is going to transpire. I know there are groups, to your point, I know there are groups that have made certain requests or demands about the way that process is done. I just doubt you're going to see much. I don't think you're going to see much change in the way it's done. I think, to your point, Republicans we picked up 7 seats lot of people thought we were going to lose seats. We picked up 7 seats. We have 71 seat majority, which is, I think, close to the most we've ever had. And so I don't think you're going to see much of an appetite to relinquish that mandate. I think you're going to see Republicans.
I would expect that, but I'm just curious to get your take as a freshman legislator on it, because sometimes, you know, the guys that are the new guys on the block come in with some different ideas as it pertains to that. The other thing I want to ask about was the cigarette tax. I know that push is being made heavily by the State Chamber of Commerce and a lot of other local organizations and statewide organizations. What's your thought process on implementing a significantly higher cigarette tax?
You know, I made it very clear to my constituents, to the voters in the primary. I made a pledge that I would not vote for any new taxes. I intend to keep that promise, and so I will not vote for any new taxes.
Okay, is that something that a lot of people running for election had made? Because that would effectively kill this if that was the case. Do you know?
Russ, I don't have yet a really good sense for how much support there would be for something like that, because I haven't had an opportunity to really meet a lot of my colleagues and get to know them and their positions. I can just tell that just historically there has not been a big appetite up here for increase in taxes. And so I don't know, but I'm hopeful that in this, particularly in this time, that we just will stay away from tax increases altogether.
With the huge shortfall that you have, you know it's going to come up on the table. So you're in a box because whatever comes up, no matter how good it is, you've pledged to your constituents that you won't support it, and therefore, you know, you're a man of your word. So you're gonna be in a position whether you like something that comes up or not, you're going to have to go against it because that is what you have pledged to your voters. Correct?
Yeah, I think that's accurate, and I think it comes from a fundamental. Place of whether or not you think, just on a general level, that government spends too much or taxes people too much. I mean, you know, or taxes too little. And I just have a firm belief that government spends too much, and that if left to its devices, it will always spend more. It will never cut spending. It will always increase revenues. And so I'm going to be on a mission to help close this budget shortfall by finding ways we can save money. I think we can do it. I think we can do a lot of things smarter and not just throw more money at it. And so that's what I'm going to be. That's what I'm going to be committed to doing.
Okay, thank you.
So I've got a question. Have they given you any directive on where the state budget's going to fall as far as tax revenue and collections? You know, it's obviously a budget year.
Yeah, we're supposed to be getting access to that info, Brad. I have not seen it yet.
Okay. So, and then a follow-up, you said that they're restricting you to 5 bills per legislator this year. Have you filed your 5 yet? And what are some of the topics?
I have not, and I am still kind of, wading through what I'm going to do on that. Again, I think there's probably a lot likelihood there's not going to be a lot of oxygen left in the room this year after some of the things that we have to tackle. But I think some of that will determine what committees I'm on as well. I'd really like to focus my legislation on relevant to the committees I'm on, so that maybe I have a shot to get something done. But I don't know. But I will let you know when I do. I have no problem with that.
Oh, nice. Bill Smythe. You said that you have a question for Representative Jeter.
I have many thoughts. Chris, a couple of things. Are you going to be there tonight, or is Mario, the council meeting?
I'll be there.
Okay. Secondly, you mentioned your new quarters. I was there a couple of years ago lobbying, and I was talking to Jim Baird, and he is down in one of those dungeons. It was a bullpen with 6 other legislators. So consider yourself fortunate if you just have 2. Or he's actually adjacent to you, not in that. But that was so awkward because when I was talking to Jim, the other guys were supposedly not involved in the appointment, yet all 6 of them sat there, and it became then a bullpen session when I was just trying to pitch something to Jim. But nonetheless, so enjoy your time either way.
Thank you.
Just one thing I want to mention, Brad. We invited Chris to join us with Merritt in the golf outing for the chamber. Do you remember what his answer was? No, we'll move on.
I believe his answer was hell no, not with you.
Yeah, it was hell no, not because I hey, Chris, the only thing I really want to ask from a fiscal conservative perspective, regionalism is a big thing coming out of the mayor's mouth here in Fishers. And what are your general thoughts? You just said you're not for new taxes, so I'm already in favor of the fact you can't have regionalism without taxes, but just give me an overview and I'll let you do the rest of that yourself?
Sure. I mean, it depends on what it looks like. I mean, when people say regionalism, Bill, you know, I immediately think more tax, more regulation. I mean, that's what I think of, but you know, I guess there could be regionalization efforts that don't include those. And I would certainly be willing to take a look at those if it's, you know, regional plans to try to, you know, bring certain, you know, do something in communities that they have a shared interest in. I mean, I'm not against it out of hand, but I think as you accurately inferred when people say that, particularly mayors, I think they typically mean regional taxes, regional regulations, and I wouldn't be for something like that.
So a follow-up to that, last year in the Senate, Senator Freeman had a bill that would have taken funding away from Indigo because they're not meeting their funding requirements for the red line, now purple line, now blue line. If that comes up again this session, what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, I have learned just from talking to some folks around here that the Indigo deal has become quite kind of a circus up here, and I'm not completely familiar with the issue, so I want to be kind of careful that I don't speak out of turn without understanding. And I definitely want to read kind of some of the underlying legislation, but you know, when it comes to any kind of mass transit, I'm a little bit skeptical just with our demographics and the way our cities and our suburbs are laid out of whether or not that can be profitable. And it's something that can easily have a lot of money go into it, as I think we've seen with the Indigo. So I'd be interested in seeing what their ridership is, how much funding they get from the state, and sort of what the plan is moving forward on that, because I just don't know enough about it to make a comment. But I think your concern is valid. And if it comes up, I'm going to be definitely digging into it and figuring out what the finances look like.
So I see in the comment box, there's a question from Laura Anna Arnold. Says, as a conservative, are you in favor of increasing customer choice and competition in electric utility services?
That's a great question. I certainly am for choice and competition. I tell people all the time, there are not many problems, I don't think, in our society that can't be solved with more choice, more freedom, or more competition. Just my personal belief. And so obviously the utility world is very unique, as I'm sure Laura knows. You know, a lot of the utility territories are sort of blocked out within state statutes, and I certainly would be open to the idea of interjecting some more choice and competition into those areas. I've been told, just as a side note from some of the utility folks, that there's a little bit more to it than that. Again, I'm new, so I'm trying to be open-minded. I'd be curious to hear why those old silos have been built and what value we think they provide, because I generally agree with Laura. I think choice and competition is good. So I feel like I'm giving a lot of prefaced answers, but I am new, and so I do want to kind of read up on some of this stuff. But I agree with her premise on choice and competition.
Other questions from our assembled audience? Raise your hand, blurt them out. Eric, you've got another question?
Yeah, so I know you had said that you're kind of not for any tax increases. Are there any glaring, I guess, wastes of tax dollars that you see, even as a freshman legislator coming in, that you see that you would want to tackle immediately? I know most of the budget, half the budget is for education. Another good chunk of it is for kind of not public health. We fund, I think, last in the country on public health, and a good other chunk is for Medicaid recipients. So I'm just wondering if you've kind of identified some overspending already that you kind of would want to tackle immediately.
So I think that there's always work to be done on entitlement spending, not necessarily saying, I'm not even necessarily talking about reducing entitlements, even just sort of the work that we do to try to snuff out fraud and abuse and entitlements, I think is always something that's ongoing. But, to be honest with you, Eric, I think education is something we have to look at. We do spend 50% of the budget on education. I think that I'm hopeful at this point that everybody would acknowledge that simply throwing more money at education isn't giving us the results that we all hope for. And so maybe there's a way for us to do it a little bit smarter and not just necessarily throw more money at whatever buildings or superintendents or whatever it is that we're funding. And so that's certainly an area that I'm interested in. I'm interested in learning more about our educational funding. Obviously, you know, there's a real push to expand school choice here in Indiana, which goes back to the choice and competition thing that Laura asked me about earlier. And so that's one area I'm really looking at. I want to see where that money is going for schools, how it's being used. Is it getting into the classrooms? Are we making a difference with it? I mean, 50% of the budget. I don't know how you can not look at that seriously if you're talking about closing some shortfalls.
So I see that we've got another question from Greg Knott. Wants to know, do you support educational savings accounts? I assume that those are similar to health savings accounts, and other reforms increase choices for parents.
You know, I am really excited about the idea of educational savings accounts. I mean, I think there's a lot of devil in the details that we need to work out, but I think this is an incredible opportunity here to give a lot of choice and power to parents. I mean, you know, in today's world, I think we've learned with coding and all the IT jobs that are on the rise that, you know, and I've got clients in my private practice, I've got clients that never went to college, and these guys, you know, guys and gals have IT firms and they're making big money and they're employing a lot of people and they're contributing a lot to the state economy. I just don't know that brick and mortar schools and the same educational path that we've always seen when we were all younger is necessarily the wave of the future. And I'd like to see us get to a point where we allow parents to have some form of educational savings accounts where they can use to send their kids to maybe one school for part of the day and another school for another part of the day, or to go shadow a mechanic for a day and swipe their card and pay for that and get their kids some class credit from that. I just think that the old brick and mortar way of doing business on education is not the future. We need a market disruption. I think these savings accounts could really be an opportunity to do that. And so, I am excited about it. I don't know that my colleagues are all there. I don't know that that there's enough of a push yet to go there. I think you'll probably be more likely to see an expansion of school choice next as kind of the next step. But I do hope that we can really get serious about that, because I think it's a great opportunity for parents.
So I've noticed there've been a couple comments in the chat box referencing marijuana. Where are you on medical marijuana or just full legalization like they've got in Michigan and Illinois?
Yeah, I'm really interested in sort of learning more about this issue. I am in favor of medical marijuana. I think Indiana's sort of behind the curve on that. I think from what I've been able to read, I think there are legitimate medicinal uses for marijuana. I think we should make it available to folks on a medical in a medical scenario. As far as complete legalization of marijuana, to be very, very frank with you, this is something I am still a little bit undecided on. And I've been reading, this is probably the one area I've been reading the most on since I decided to run for this office. And I think there are really great arguments on both sides, but I do think that I think the medical marijuana is the next step that we need to take. I'm gonna be for that, and I'm gonna try to start working with some of my colleagues on that.
All right, one other question I saw just come up in the chat box. There's been a push to do basically video gaming in licensed establishments around Indiana. How do you look at that?
Brad, you again have targeted an area that I'm not super familiar with. So I'm gonna kind of give you some vague comments, not because I'm trying to be obtuse, but because I really don't know a lot about the issue. I can tell you that I don't think that we need to have a government that's regulating all of our personal conduct and businesses and what we can and can't do. So I'm certainly open to the idea. And I'd want to hear, one of the things I like to do is I'd like to hear from people that are against it and say, okay, why? You know, what is the harm we're doing with that? And that helps me really inform my judgment on that. But I'm very interested in that. I think that I can't think of any glaring reason why it wouldn't make sense, but there may be a reason out there. I just may not have heard it yet. And so I'm interested in learning more about it for sure.
Okay. My last question before I let you go, I know you're busy and you're heck at work at the State House. So, and this is more of just a personal question. Heaven forbid you and the family have a free Saturday. What are you guys doing?
Oh gosh, well, we're probably either going to the zoo or the Children's Museum or Conner Prairie or something. My kids always want to do something related to jungle gyms and sciences and bounce houses and stuff like that. So we're probably somewhere like that is my guess.
All right. Well, Representative Jeter, thank you very much for joining us. There's a lot of people on here who were not familiar with you before today, so thank you for taking some time out of your day to talk to us. And yeah, as you're over there legislating in the State House, keep us and Lawrence at the top of your mind. And if you ever have questions, I'd be more than happy to tell you the right answer.
And
Thanks,
Brad, since Chris is still learning his way around the block on all this, I think it would be really neat to have him come back after the session is over, because it wouldn't be, hey, I'm still looking into this. You'll have had the answers and you will have learned what you need to learn to find your way around the block and represent the people of your district.
So absolutely, Russ. So, yep, Representative Jeter, we would love to have you back after the session. I know that you'll be a little bit busy for the next 4 months or so. So
I'd be happy to.
So for everybody else who's on, thank you for joining us today. Next Wednesday, we're going to have Representative Carrie Hamilton. She has Castleton, Nora, and kind of the western edge of Lawrence Township. Also keep in mind, we're doing our Business Matters Luncheon on December 15th. That's going to be with Danny O'Malia of O'Malia Supermarkets. He's going to be talking about delivering excellent customer service and how it benefits your business. So thank you all for joining us. Representative Jeter, once again, thank you for being here. And yeah, good luck this session. And I hope to see you all again next week.
Wonderful.
Take care.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you. Thank you.